interpellate the Honorable Speaker is the Honorable Ruffy Biazon.
The Honorable
Move that we
Biazon
recognize
is
him.
recognized for his interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With a distinguished gentle lady, yield to some questions.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague. Last January 22, this representation sent a letter to the Civil Aeronautics Administration of the Philippines to suggest that direct flights coming from Wuhan to Manila or to the Philippines be suspended. And of course, the reply was that they did not have that direct authority and that they had to consult with other concerned agencies, which is very understandable. Although that was a bit of a concern to this representation because the 2019 NCOV issue had already been brewing since early December. And I guess that was not misplaced. That concern was not misplaced because the following day, Wuhan itself went into a shutdown. So it did not require for the government to suspend flights because on its own, Wuhan city was locked down. And then this morning, as I was browsing through the news, I came upon this news item which says, and I quote on CNN Philippines, Immigration Commissioner Jaime Morente clarifies that there's no order barring Chinese nationals to enter the Philippines. But the Bureau of Immigration suspended the issuance of visa upon arrival, and it is meant to, quote, prevent the entry of the Wuhan coronavirus. So, now, sa pagkaunawa po natin, pipigilan nila ang pagpasok ng certain nationals. This was at 10:54 a.m. At 12:39, another news item came out which says, Bureau of Quarantine okays arrival of China and Hong Kong cruise ships in Manila. So, dalawang vapor po yun ng mga turista na pinayagan naman pumasok. The point I'm driving at, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, is that there seems to be a disconnect among agencies. While we were expecting that there would be a more proactive stance with regard to the entry of nationals, especially coming from Wuhan, I was surprised to find out that that's not even one flight, but 3 destinations direct from Wuhan into Calibo, Wuhan to Clark, Wuhan to Cebu, which provided a wide open gateway. We were just fortunate enough that Wuhan by itself initiated the lockdown. And this disconnect between the position of the BID and the position of the Bureau of Quarantine. May I know, Mr. Speaker, my distinguished colleague, what is the measure that has been taken by the DOH, which I assume DOH is the lead agency, in ensuring that the interagency cooperation and coordination is made certain in the face of this threat of a highly contagious epidemic?
Mr. Speaker, currently I think the DOH is in coordination with other agencies. In fact, I was informed that the Secretary of Health was with the other secretaries. It's a high-level meeting. There's a high-level meeting this morning to discuss the travel restrictions. Yun po yung concern ninyo na katanungan, which I think ay maaaring sagutin no, ng ating mga namumuno ng ahensya sa panahon na atin po silang ipapatawag.
Nung isang araw din po, meron akong nabasang balita na nakipagpulong naman ang ating Secretary ng Health sa Department of Foreign Affairs, presumably to talk about Filipinos living abroad and possibly how to repatriate them. Again, surprisingly, nagkaroon lang ng meeting na yon, ilang araw pa lamang nakakaraan, pero medyo matagal na nating alam na may pumuputok na paglaganap ng sakit sa ibang bansa. And particularly yung sa Wuhan. Yung nabanggit ko nga, January 22 yung sulat ko. January 23, sinabi ng Wuhan, shutdown kami. But then nag-usap lang yung DOH at saka DFA parang 2 days ago with regard to the problem of Filipinos who are there, about 50 of them. So there is this impression that we are just reactive to this kind of a threat to public health, which is spreading very fast. Bakit po kaya gano'n? Yun po bang pag-meeting na nabanggit ninyo, biglaan na rin lang ho ba yan, in reaction to a certain condition?
Mr. Speaker, hindi ko po masagot ng katanungan directly ng ating honorable colleague. But naniniwala po ako na ang mga high-level meeting na ginanap ngayong umaga ay pagtugon sa mga lumalabas na problema. No? At yun din po ang dahilan kung kaya nga po tayo talumpati ngayong umaga to clarify all our questions to the executive head ng different agencies.
My distinguished colleague is a doctor by profession. And I'm pretty sure that she will agree that things like this is something that we can expect to happen again in the future. In 2003, we had SARS. Later on, we had MERS-CoV and some other highly infectious diseases. And now we have 2019 nCoV. So somewhere in the future, there will be another contagion that will come in. Pero bakit po parang kahit na may experience tayo dati, parang ganun nga, reactionary tayo ngayon? How can this be explained by the DOH?
Mr. Speaker, according to DOH, actually, I don't know if that's the right term to use, being reactionary on the situation, but they told me that the guidelines they were using right now were the experiences or the guidelines that they used during the MERS-CoV and the SARS-CoV situation. So somehow, Mr. Speaker, yung karanasan naman noong MERS-CoV and SARS ay nagagamit sa pangkasalukuyan pong sitwasyon.
May nabanggit po kanina sa inyong lingkod yung mga taga-DOH na meron na ho silang binuo na task force. Pwede lang po ba malaman kung ano ho yung basehan ng pagbuo ng task force na yun?
Mr. Speaker, according to Department of Health representative, they're using draft DPO, Department Order, on the task force within DOH.
Tama po ba yung pagkarinig ko, draft Department Order?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, but I think I'm wrong on using the draft. But they said there's a department order, unsigned department order. So they're using the ACS. Okay, there's an administrative order on the incident command system that they're using right now.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, I do not wish to prolong the questions anymore. I know that tomorrow there is, I know that there is a call for the Secretary of Health to appear before Congress and respond to questions. I'm just putting these issues on the record so that perhaps it can be taken up during that time that we can ask questions to the Secretary of Health. But before I end, Mr. Speaker, let me just point out to our colleagues from the Department of Health that while we speak of an unsigned department order to trigger the task force, there is an Executive Order 168, Series of 2014, which creates an interagency task force for the management of emerging and infectious diseases in the Philippines, issued by the President of the Republic. So when I asked what the basis of the task force that was being created, there is mention of an unsigned department order wherein we could have very well cited this executive order.
Mr. Speaker, I was just informed just now that it is already signed by the Secretary. It's Department Order 2020-00224.
Well, it's been signed, but as I again point out, there is already an existing executive order. We probably did not have to have that department order. And in this executive order, there is even that mandate to create an EID, or emerging infectious diseases preparedness manual. Now, I don't know if it is already if they already have that document. Perhaps the good secretary can respond tomorrow. But in closing, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleague, we do need to prepare for the future because it will happen again. We know that for a fact. And we just want to see government being able to respond, if possible, right at the moment that the issue or the public health threat it comes upon us. We do hope that we would be more proactive in dealing with these serious matters. Thank you very much, my distinguished colleague, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Majority Leader.